The notion of an artist as an independent genius did not emerge until the Renaissance, about 500 years ago. In most ages, back through 5,000 years of artistic expression, artists were expected to dedicate their skills to some person or force outside themselves, perhaps the demands of the person who commissioned the work or the artistic needs of a region or state. Such was the case in Egypt, 15 centuries before Christ. For the first time, Egypt was led by a woman, a remarkable woman who proclaimed herself the daughter of a queen and the god Ammon himself, the supreme deity. Like the great pharaohs before her, Hatshepsut amassed thousands of slaves, and at her command, they built a great rock-cut temple at Deir el-Bahri, which leads to her tomb. The temple displayed 200 awesome statues, vast stone sculptures which show the many faces of this queen who became king. For Hatshepsut, like her ancestors, is obsessed with immortality. 1,000 years and 1,200 miles east of Egypt, the kingdom of Persia would grow strong. In several relief sculptures, we see the Persian king Darius I seated on a cushioned throne, holding a staff and a flower, two traditional symbols of royal power in Persia. The subject here approaching Darius to offer tribute stands behind two incense burners, which were intended to keep visitors a respectful distance from the king. Persian subjects like this one were obliged to offer tribute to the king annually. Alexander the Great, the Greek conqueror of Persia, recognized the importance of image in his expanding empire. His head, with its distinctive curls, appeared throughout the Greek Empire, from frescoes and mosaics found in the Italian peninsula to statues and coins minted in the Middle East. Portraits under the Roman emperors became instruments of governmental propaganda. The face of the Roman Emperor Augustus Caesar is idealized, as is the conventional contrapposto, the anatomical proportions, and the deep drapery or cloth of the commander. His bare feet and the inclusion of Cupid riding a dolphin as a structural support for the statue reveals his supposed mythical ancestry to the goddess Venus. Such a statue's political function was quite obvious, to show Rome that the Emperor Augustus was an exceptional figure, comparable to heroes worthy of being raised to a divine status on Olympus and the best man to govern Rome. In the centuries after Rome, monumental art was unusual. Instead, wealthy people commissioned artists to make smaller, portable works of art. Hand-painted manuscripts, carvings in wood and ivory, and containers of exquisite detail leave us a record of both the people and the times in which they lived. Wealthy and powerful people collected beautiful objects, like this illuminated book. In this example from the Duc de Berry's Book of Hours, not only did the illustration show off the lands and property of the patron, but the artist had presented the Duke as a generous host at the center of an elaborate feast. Renaissance Italy, there arose a wealthy middle class competing with the nobility to patronize the arts. They used their enormous wealth to maintain lavish lifestyles, create beauty, both public and private, and to provide extravagant entertainment for the masses. Artists recognized that implicit in the creation of such artwork was the depiction of their patrons as noble and powerful people. In Florence, most prominent were the Medici family, who earned their fortunes as wool merchants and bankers. Beautiful homes in the city of Florence and the countryside abounded with statues and paintings celebrating family members and their favorite subjects. Their coat of arms appears not only on the floors, walls, and doorways of Florence, but in St. Peter's in Rome, attesting to their wealth and power throughout Italy. The popularity and success of the Baroque style was encouraged by the Roman Catholic Church. In this age of kings, each royal family employed a court painter whose primary role was to produce portraits of family members and their attendants. The aristocracy saw the dramatic style of Baroque architecture and art as a means of impressing visitors and expressing triumphant power and control. Baroque palaces are built around an entrance of courts grand staircases and reception rooms of sequentially increasing opulence. After Napoleon's rise to power, the fashion was for allegorical portraits of Bonaparte, glorifying the new master of France. But Jacques-Louis David chose symbolism rather than allegory. His figure of Bonaparte is heroic and idealized, but it lacks the concrete symbols of allegorical painting. The hand gesture, however, leaves no doubt as to the will of the commander to arrive at his goal. To record his coronation for posterity, Napoleon commissioned the artist David to produce this monumental painting. The 3-hour ceremony centered around the symbols of imperial regalia, such as those that had belonged to Charlemagne. Not only the Europeans used grand gestures when depicting their leaders. We Americans are not above elevating our heroes to the status of gods. In Emanuel Leutze's famous depiction of Washington crossing the Delaware, Washington's stance, obviously intended to depict him in a heroic fashion, would have been very hard to maintain in the actual stormy conditions of the crossing. Washington was apparently a very quiet man by nature, and after serving his term as president, was happy to retire to his home at Mount Vernon. He would no doubt have been appalled at the statue the U.S. Congress commissioned for his birthday centennial in 1840. Sculptor Horatio Greenough modeled his massive figure of Washington on the great statue of Zeus Olympius, which was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. As the 19th century drew to a close, the American taste for monumental art did not end. Politicians, military leaders, and wealthy magnates of wealth and culture would continue to be memorialized through art right up until the present day. Over 2,000 years ago, China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, unified all of the warring clans into a nation. Qin's terracotta army consists of life-size figures of warriors depicted in battle dress according to rank and unit, and numerous figures of horses and chariots. This is only part of what is believed to be his grand tomb. The construction of this tomb involved hundreds of thousands of workers and took 36 years to complete. It's also believed that Qin ordered that the tomb workers and supervisors involved in its design be buried alive to protect its secrets. Sejong the Great was the 4th king of the Joseon dynasty of Korea. He used the creation of the Hangul alphabet and the advancement of technology to expand his territory. He was known as a great innovator and inventor. To this day, his image appears throughout Korea, as seen on this 10,000 won note. Akbar the Great was the 3rd Mughal emperor. At the end of his reign in 1605, the Mughal Empire covered most of northern and central India. Akbar departed from the policy of his predecessors in the treatment of the territories he conquered. Previous Mughals extracted a large tribute from the rulers and then left them to administer their dominions autonomously. Akbar integrated them into his administration, providing them the opportunity to serve as military rulers, thus controlling their power while increasing their prestige as a part of the imperial ruling class. Most of this presentation has been focused on the power of individuals and the state, but the power of the gods may also be depicted in art. This is an image of Shiva, the Hindu god of destruction, symbolized by fire, and shown here dancing upon the defeated symbol of ignorance. As you explore the images of power from other non-Western cultures, consider also the power of religion and the power of nature. In summary, power can be depicted in many ways. It can be warlike and intimidating, frightening, stately and awe-inspiring, paternal and reassuring, a symbol of wealth and luxury, and at times, even godlike.